North Carolina, March 1945. Jack Lucas's mother received 2 letters, the first from the Marine Corps. Your son has been gravely wounded in action. Prognosis unknown. The second from Jack himself, written the night before the battle, sealed with instructions. Only send if I don't make it back. It was dated February 19th, 1945, one day before he threw himself on 2 grenades. Mom, if you're reading this, I did something today I hope you'll understand. I know I lied about my age. I know you didn't want me to go, but I needed to be here. And if something happens to me, I need you to know it was worth it. Because the guys here, they're my brothers. And you taught me that brothers protect each other, no matter what it costs. The next day, Lucas threw himself on 2 Japanese grenades. One exploded through his body, 250 pieces of shrapnel. The other, impossibly, didn't detonate. He survived. At 17, became the youngest Medal of Honor recipient in history. For the 4 seconds, he decided his mother would rather lose a son than have him live knowing he let his brothers die. This is that letter. This is his story. Before we begin, hit subscribe for more stories told through the words of those who lived them. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Dear Mom, I'm writing this the night before we hit the beach. They're calling it Iwo Jima. Looks like hell from the briefing maps. Volcanic rock, no cover, Japanese everywhere. I need to tell you something before tomorrow. Something I should have told you 3 years ago when I enlisted. I lied about my age. I know you knew. But I need to say it. I was 14 when I joined, forged your signature, added years to my birthday, did everything I had to do to get into this fight. I'm sorry I lied, but I'm not sorry I'm here. Norfolk, Virginia. August 1942. Jacqueline Harold Lucas, everyone called him Jack, stood outside the Marine Corps recruiting office for the 3rd time that summer. He was 14 years old, looked 12, weighed 125 pounds, soaking wet. The recruiting sergeant had turned him away twice already. Kid, come back in 4 years. We need Marines, not children. But Jack kept coming back. Because his older brother had enlisted after Pearl Harbor. Because his father had served in World War I. Because sitting at home while everyone else fought felt like dying slowly. So he did what desperate kids do. He lied, added 3 years to his birthday, forged his mother's signature on the parental consent form, needed because even his fake age of 17 required it, practiced deepening his voice, stood up straighter to look taller. August 6th, 1942. He walked into that recruiting office a 4th time. Name, Jacqueline Harold Lucas. Age, 17, sir. The lie came easy now. The sergeant looked at him skeptically. This kid was clearly not 17. But it was 1942, and the Marines needed bodies, lots of bodies. And the kid had fire in his eyes. You understand what you're signing up for, son? Yes, sir. I want to fight. The sergeant stamped the papers. Jack Lucas, age 17, was now a United States Marine. His mother found out 3 weeks later when the Marine Corps sent notification. She cried, called the recruitment office, demanded they send her baby home. Too late. Jack was already in boot camp at Parris Island, learning to kill before he'd learned to drive. Boot camp was designed to break men. Jack was barely a teenager. The other recruits were 18, 19, 20. Men who'd worked jobs, had girlfriends, knew what they were fighting for. Jack was 14, lying about being 17, trying desperately not to cry when the drill instructors screamed in his face. But something happened in those 12 weeks. Jack stopped being a kid, not because he wanted to, because he had to. He learned to field strip an M1 Garand in the dark, learned to bayonet straw dummies while screaming, learned to kill efficiently, cleanly, without hesitation. Skills no 14-year-old should need. By graduation, nobody asked his real age anymore. Because whatever Jack Lucas had been before Parris Island, he came out the other side, a Marine. Mom, you asked me once why I lied, why I couldn't just wait until I was old enough. The truth? I was afraid the war would end before I got there. Afraid everyone would come home with stories about what they did, and I'd have to say I stayed safe while they fought. I know that sounds stupid now, but I was 14. And 14-year-olds don't understand that staying alive isn't cowardice. It's a blessing. I understand that now. Tomorrow, when we hit that beach, I'm going to be scared. Really scared. And I'm going to wish I'd listened to you. By 1944, Jack Lucas was 16, claiming to be 19, and assigned to a training unit in Hawaii. Not combat. Training new recruits. Punishment for being too young, even though nobody could prove it. But Jack didn't join the Marines to teach. He joined to fight. When the 5th Marine Division shipped out for Iwo Jima in January 1945, Jack stowed away, literally hid on the transport ship until they were too far from port to send him back. When they discovered him, his commanding officer was furious. "Lucas, you just committed a court-martial offense. You're AWOL. You're not trained for combat. You're going to get yourself killed." Jack stood at attention. "Sir, I'm a Marine. Marines fight. That's why I'm here." The officer could have thrown him in the brig, should have, but they were 3 days from Iwo Jima, and warm bodies were needed, even bodies that belonged to kids who'd lied their way into hell. "Fine. You want to fight? You'll get your chance. God help you." Jack sat in the transport ship's hold, surrounded by Marines checking gear, writing letters, making peace with what was coming. Tomorrow, they'd hit the beach. Tomorrow, a lot of them would die. He pulled out paper and started writing. "Dear Mom, if you're reading this, it means tomorrow didn't go well. I'm sorry. I know you didn't want me here. I know you cried when you found out I enlisted. I know you tried to get me sent home. But I need you to understand something. I'm not scared of dying. I'm scared of letting down the guys next to me. They're my brothers now. And you taught me that brothers protect each other, no matter what it costs. Whatever happens tomorrow, know that I love you. Know that I'm sorry I lied, and know that if I don't make it back, it was worth it. Your son, Jack." He sealed the envelope, wrote on the outside, "Only send if I don't make it back," handed it to the chaplain. "Sir, can you make sure my mom gets this if, you know?" The chaplain took it. "You're awfully young to be writing letters like this, Marine." Jack smiled. "Yes, sir, I am." February 20th, 1945, the second day of the battle for Iwo Jima. The beach landing had been hell. Black volcanic sand that swallowed boots. Japanese artillery from Mount Suribachi turning the beach into a killing zone. Marines dying before they even made it off the boats. Jack Lucas was 17 years old, though his paperwork said 20, and he'd never been more terrified in his life. His squad pushed inland, taking casualties, moving from crater to crater. Every rock could hide a Japanese soldier. Every cave could be a machine gun nest. The island was 5 miles of volcanic hell, and they had to take every inch of it. By nightfall on February 20th, they'd advanced maybe 500 yards, felt like miles. Jack's squad, now down to 4 men from the original 13, dug into a crater near the base of a ravine. Corporal Anderson, Private Hammond, Private Jefferson, and Jack Lucas, the kid who'd lied to be there. They took turns on watch, 2 hours each. Jack had the midnight shift. He sat at the edge of their crater, M1 Garand across his lap, staring into the darkness. Somewhere out there, Japanese soldiers were doing the same thing, waiting, watching. He thought about his mom, about the letter he'd written, hoped she'd never have to read it. Movement in the darkness, 50 yards, 40. Jack raised his rifle. "Contact front!" The crater exploded with activity. Anderson grabbed his weapon. Hammond and Jefferson scrambled for position. Japanese soldiers charging. Not a banzai attack. An infiltration team. Silent. Deadly. Too close for artillery support. Jack fired. The M1's bark was deafening. He saw one soldier drop. Another kept coming. Then he saw them. 2 dark objects arcing through the air, tumbling end over end in the moonlight. Grenades. They hit the crater floor, rolled, came to rest 3 feet from Hammond and Jefferson. Time stopped. Second one. Jack's brain processed what he was seeing. Japanese Type 97 grenades, 4 to 5 second fuses, 2 of them. His 3 brothers frozen, staring. Second. 2. He calculated. The math was brutal and simple. If those grenades detonate, the fragmentation radius kills everyone in the crater. All 4 of them die. Or, second 3. Jack moved, not away, toward. He dove onto both grenades, covering them with his body. Chest pressed against one, stomach against the other, arms wrapped around both. Second 4. The world exploded. Jack felt the first grenade detonate through his body. Not pain, not initially, just impact. Like being hit by a car, his chest cavity compressed, ribs cracked, internal organs ruptured, then the shrapnel. 250 pieces of metal fragments tearing through his body from the inside out, through his chest, his arms, his legs, his face, his back. He tried to scream, couldn't. Lungs collapsed, blood filling his chest cavity. The second grenade, impossibly, inexplicably, didn't explode, sat there under his body, live, fuse burned through, but detonator failed. Jack lay on top of it, dying, while his blood pooled around the unexploded ordnance. Anderson, Hammond, and Jefferson thought he was dead. Of course he was dead. Nobody survives taking a grenade point blank. Nobody survives having 250 pieces of shrapnel tear through their organs. They started to move, had to advance, had to keep fighting. Lucas was gone. They'd grieve later. Then they heard it. Weak, barely audible over the gunfire. "Hey, I'm still here." They turned. Jack Lucas, his body torn apart, blood everywhere, somehow, impossibly, was conscious. "Corman!" Anderson screamed. "Corman!" "Mom, I don't remember much after the grenade went off. Just flashes. I remember thinking, this is what dying feels like. Not scary, just quiet." I remember Hammond crying, big, tough Marine crying over me, saying, "Don't die, Lucas. Don't you die." I remember thinking, I'm 17. I lied about my age to be here. And now I'm dying on some volcanic rock in the middle of the Pacific. Was it worth it? Then I saw Hammond alive, Jefferson alive, Anderson alive. 3 brothers who would have died if I hadn't moved. Yeah, Mom, it was worth it. The Navy corpsman who reached Lucas couldn't believe what he was seeing. This kid should be dead. The amount of trauma, the shrapnel wounds, the internal bleeding, dead 3 times over. But he wasn't. His heart was still beating, lungs still trying to breathe, body refusing to quit. They carried him to the beach, loaded him onto a Higgins boat, transferred him to a hospital ship. The doctors took one look and started prepping for surgery, even though they didn't think he'd survive it. 12 hours of surgery. They removed 250 pieces of shrapnel. Couldn't get all of it. Some pieces were too close to vital organs, too deep to extract safely. Jack Lucas would carry Japanese metal in his body for the rest of his life. But he lived. 17 years old. Threw himself on 2 grenades, one detonated through his body. And he lived. The doctors called it a miracle. Anderson called it proof that God protects the brave. Hammond called it the craziest thing he'd ever seen. Jack called it lucky. Naval Hospital, Guam. March 1945. Jack woke up 3 days after surgery. Couldn't move, couldn't feel his legs, couldn't breathe without tubes. A nurse leaned over him. "Welcome back, Marine. You gave us quite a scare." He tried to speak, couldn't. Mouth too dry, throat too damaged. She gave him water. "Don't try to talk. You've been through hell. Just rest." But Jack had a question that couldn't wait. He forced words out. "My squad?" The nurse smiled. "They're fine, all 3 of them. Because of you." Jack closed his eyes. Worth it. Back in North Carolina, Jack's mother received the Marine Corps telegram. "Your son has been gravely wounded in action on Iwo Jima." He is receiving medical care. Prognosis unknown. She collapsed. Her baby, her 14-year-old who'd lied to join, her boy who was too young to die. 2 days later, she received the second letter, the one Jack had written the night before the battle, the one marked, "Only send if I don't make it back." The chaplain had sent it anyway. Thought she should know what her son had been thinking. She read it through tears. "Mom, if you're reading this, I did something today I hope you'll understand. I know I lied about my age. I know you didn't want me to go, but I needed to be here. And if something happens to me, I need you to know it was worth it. Because the guys here, they're my brothers. And you taught me that brothers protect each other, no matter what it costs." She folded the letter, held it to her chest, and prayed that her boy would come home so she could tell him. She understood. She'd always understood. President Harry Truman placed the Medal of Honor around Jack Lucas's neck. The citation read, "For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty while serving with the 1st Battalion in 26th Marines, 5th Marine Division, during action against enemy Japanese forces on Iwo Jima, February 20th, 1945. While creeping through a ravine, Private Lucas and 3 other Marines were surprised by a Japanese grenade attack. 2 grenades rolled into the fighting hole. Private Lucas, without hesitation, threw himself on both grenades, absorbing the full impact of one explosion and preventing the detonation of the second. His courage and self-sacrifice saved the lives of his comrades. Jack stood at attention, 17 years old, still recovering, still carrying shrapnel in his body, and accepted the nation's highest honor. Truman looked at him. "How old are you, son?" "17, sir." "You're the youngest Medal of Honor recipient in history. How does that feel?" Jack thought about it. "Sir, I feel like I lied to get here. Lied about my age, forged documents, stowed away on a ship, and somehow ended up here. I don't feel like a hero. I feel like a kid who got lucky." Truman smiled. "Son, heroes never feel like heroes. That's what makes them heroes. Dear Mom, I'm writing this from the hospital. They say I'll live. Probably. The doctors removed 250 pieces of shrapnel, but couldn't get it all. I'll carry metal in my body for the rest of my life. I'm sorry I lied. Sorry I forged your signature. Sorry I put you through hell worrying about me. But I'm not sorry I dove on those grenades, because Hammond, Jefferson, and Anderson are alive. 3 men with families, with futures, with lives worth living. You taught me that protecting people you love is worth any cost. I just never thought the cost would be this high. I'm 17 now, really 17, not fake ID 17, and I feel ancient, like I've lived 100 years in 3. They're giving me the Medal of Honor, youngest recipient ever. People are calling me a hero, but I don't feel like one. I feel like a kid who made a choice in 4 seconds and somehow survived it. That second grenade didn't explode, Mom, the one under my stomach. It should have. Every military expert says it should have. Bad fuse, lucky break, divine intervention. Nobody knows. I think God knew you'd already lost enough. Knew you couldn't lose your boy. So, He let me live. I'm coming home. Not sure when. Not sure what shape I'll be in. But I'm coming home. And when I get there, I need you to know you were right. I was too young. I should have waited. I should have listened. But I'm glad I didn't. Because 3 men are alive who wouldn't be. Your son, Jack. Jack Lucas lived to be 80 years old. He finished high school after the war, the education interrupted by lying about his age. Went to college, got married, had children, lived a normal life, or as normal as you can live when you carry 200 pieces of shrapnel in your body and memories of dying at 17. He never talked much about Iwo Jima. When people asked about the Medal of Honor, he'd say, "I did what anyone would do." But Hammond, Jefferson, and Anderson knew better. They stayed in touch with Jack for 60 years, called him every February 20th, thanked him for the life he'd given them. In 2006, 3 months before Jack died, he gave an interview. The reporter asked, Do you regret lying about your age? Forging documents to get into combat? Jack smiled. I regret lying to my mother. But I don't regret being there. Those 4 seconds, diving on those grenades, those were the most important 4 seconds of my life. Not because of what I did, because of what it meant. What did it mean? It meant 3 men went home to their families. That's all that matters. Jack Lucas died August 5th, 2008, age 80. He was buried with full military honors at Calverton National Cemetery. At his funeral, an old man in a wheelchair approached the casket. Frank Hammond, one of the 3 men Lucas had saved on Iwo Jima. He saluted the casket, then spoke quietly. Jack, you were 17. Too young to be there, too young to die, but you jumped on those grenades anyway. Gave me 63 years I wouldn't have had. Thank you doesn't cover it. Never did. But thank you. The letter Jack wrote to his mother, the one dated February 19th, 1945, is now in the National Museum of the Marine Corps. The last line, added after the war in different ink, reads, P.S. Mom, I'm okay. And I finally understand what you tried to tell me. Courage isn't about not being scared. It's about being scared and doing it anyway. I was terrified on that island, but I'd do it again. Because brotherhood isn't about age. It's about sacrifice. And some sacrifices are worth making, even at 17. Subscribe for more stories of impossible courage told through the words of those who live them. Age is just a number. Bravery is forever.